Welcome to the overview of PageGate's TCP server module. This API allows your sending systems to broadcast TCP data to your receiver. Information received by this API is output to a directory as Ascii files that PageGate's getAscii interface then parses for delivery. Before we begin, the steps we're going through in this tutorial can be referenced in PageGate's written documentation. You can find the documentation in the support section of our website, or in the pg.chm file in the PageGate program directory. The specific section you're interested in will be how PageGate accepts messages, TCP server module. To review the process, you'll first need to create a directory for the TCP server and its files to reside in. While this can be any folder, we recommend creating a directory called TCP in the PageGate data folder. Once the directory exists, browse into the PageGate program directory, then find the pgtcp server executable and pgtcp.ini file. Copy both of these files and paste them into the folder you just created. After copying the files in, we'll need to modify the ini file. This file controls the behavior of the TCP server and is where you'll need to enter your registration key. If a registration key isn't present, the module will run in an evaluation mode that will stop every 3 to 5 days or after 500 messages, whichever happens first. To register the module, go to the very end of the file and enter the following: registration with a capital R equals your registration key number, including the dashes. Next, go back to the beginning of the file and set the port you want the TCP server to listen to. By default, the port is set to 5002, but you can modify this to whatever port you may need. Then change output folder to the TCP server's directory. By default, c:\PageGateData\TCP. Change log folder to your logging directory. If you're unsure of what this folder is, open the PageGate admin, then go to the Program Settings section. It should be displayed here on the right. By default, c:\PageGateData\logs. Now we can get into how the TCP server interprets data. To start, we'll need to set the End of Record Delimiter, but let's talk about what that means. When the TCP server is receiving information, it doesn't really know what in the received data is important. It's just receiving a series of TCP packets. The End of Record Delimiter tells the TCP server that when a certain character or a series of characters appear, that denotes a break in the data stream. For example, the TCP server could receive a series of 5 packets in this order. If you set End of Record Delimiter to a £, that tells the TCP server that everything before every £, received is a data block to be parsed. Put another way, the End of Record Delimiter tells the TCP server how to break down the information it's receiving into relevant chunks of data. It's the over of a CB radio conversation. Below that, there are required text and required text operator values that can be optionally set. Required text specifies that certain text must appear for a data block to be processed, and you may specify multiple values by separating each with a pipe. The required text operator specifies whether you're using or and logic in the required text. For example, let's say that you specify the following, that required text is equal to alarm, pipe, notification, and that our required text operator is AND. That tells the TCP server that both the words alarm and notification must appear in a received data block for that data block to be treated as relevant and trigger a message. As another example, let's say that we set the required text to alarm, pipe, alert, and that our required text operator is OR. That tells the TCP server that either the words alarm or alert need to appear in a received data block for that data block to be relevant and trigger a message. Next, we have End of Record Timeout, whose value is expressed in milliseconds. If data is received by the TCP server, but the End of Record Delimiter isn't received within the time specified, the data will be accepted for processing anyways. By default, this is set to 3000 milliseconds, or 3 seconds. Reject on timeout determines whether timeouts should post a rejection notice or not. By default, this is set to true. Accept response determines what the TCP server will echo to the sending system upon acceptance of a data block. Reject response determines what the TCP server will echo to the sending system upon rejection of a data block. Last, we have two optional settings: static recipient and static sender. Static recipient allows you to specify the name of a specific recipient or group in PageGate that all traffic from the TCP server should be passed to. If the triggered messages need to be delivered to dynamic recipients, leave this blank. Static sender allows you to hard-code a sender's name that should be associated with all traffic from the TCP server. Now that we're finished, save and close the INI file. Now that we have the TCP server configured, we'll need to install a Windows service for it. To do that, open a command prompt with elevated permission. Change directory into the TCP server's program directory. By default, $pagegatedata/TCP. Once there, type the following and hit enter: pg TCP server /install. Then exit the command prompt. Open the services list in Windows. Then find and start the PageGate TCP server. Go into the properties of this service and change its startup type to automatic. That way it automatically restarts itself when Windows reboots. The final step is to configure PageGate's getAscii interface to process messages generated by the TCP server. Open pgadmin and go to the Interfaces, getAscii, Settings. If you don't already have a polling directory specified, set it to the TCP server's directory. By default, $pagegatedata/TCP. Check Enabled, click Apply, and tell it yes, you would like this to be enabled for all of your recipients and groups. If you do already have a polling directory specified, you'll need to create an advanced polling rule to poll for the other data. To do that, go to Interfaces, getAscii, Settings, Advanced Polling, Files. Click Add. Set recipient to asterisk. Leave from blank. In Files, type *ASC, then set the path to the TCP server's directory. By default, $pagegatedata/TCP. Set file type to standard. Click Apply, then click Apply again. Now we want to go to the Program, Settings section, and we need to make sure that in Run on this server, getAscii is checked. If it isn't checked, check it, and click Apply. If you're prompted for credentials, leave them blank, and click Apply again. This concludes the overview of PageGate's TCP server module. For more information, including how to configure advanced filtering options, please visit our website, www.notepage.net.